All right, so get this. We're diving into something pretty amazing today. Gustav Klimt. And to be exact, his very last masterpiece, Lady with a Fan.
Hmm.
And you know what makes it even more interesting? It was found right there in his studio on his easel after he died.
Oh, wow.
Like, talk about a story just waiting to be told.
Really sets the scene, doesn't it? Like you're looking right into the artist's last
Oh,
moments.
right. And speaking of captivating, have you seen her gaze? I mean,
Wow.
she's just looking off to the side a little, but it pulls you in. Plus, that silk robe, it's barely hanging on her shoulder. Talk about creating a mood.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Klimt definitely knew what he was doing there.
And those colors, the patterns, it's like this big explosion of color behind her.
And it's not just any explosion, it's all symbolic. You see that phoenix there. A phoenix, in many cultures, it means rebirth, new beginnings. Considering this was his last work, it really makes you wonder what was going through his mind, don't you think?
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
That's true. It's like he's saying, okay, this is the end for me, but there's always something new coming around, almost
Hmm,
like this painting is going on a journey even without him there.
that's it. And if you look even closer, there are lotus blossoms woven into everything.
Oh, yeah.
And those often mean lasting beauty, which, kind of contrasts with that whole life is fleeting idea the Phoenix gives you.
It's like he's saying, listen, life is short, but beauty sticks around. Yeah. I always knew Klimt was into Japanese art, but I never realized how much it actually influenced a painting like Lady with a Fan. Oh, yeah, it was huge back then. They called it Japonism, this fascination with Japanese art that spread through Europe, like wildfire Klimt. He loved those flat images in ukiyo-e woodblock prints, and you can totally see that in the background here.
And the colors, too, that bright yellow and blue. It reminds me of something, but I just can't put my finger on it.
Chinese porcelain, maybe.
Mm.
Klimt was great at blending those Eastern styles into his own work. It wasn't copying, it was more like he was creating a conversation between them.
A conversation. That's a good way to put it. He's like a bridge between cultures through his art. But you know what I always want to know? Who is she? This mysterious lady with a fan.
Right. The million-dollar question. I think there have been guesses over the years. Some think Johannes Dowdy Klimt painted her around the same time, and others think maybe Emily Floge, his partner. But nothing for sure has ever come up.
So she's like this timeless muse frozen in his last masterpiece. I read that the Belvedere Museum in Vienna, when they first showed it, they called it Dancer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, she does have a dancer's pose, don't you think? Makes you wonder if she was a dancer. Maybe one of Klimt's favorites.
Now you've got me wanting to dig up my old dance shoes. It's amazing how one little detail can change how you see the whole thing.
Speaking of details, have you noticed how Klimt painted her left shoulder? It's bare.
Oh, you know what? Now that you mention it, it reminds me of that other painting, Wally, wasn't it?
That's the one. He did that one in 1916. And she's posed very similarly. It makes you wonder if this was just something Klimt liked to do, a certain way he saw women,
Maybe.
like a signature move. The devil's in the details, right? And speaking of details and Klimt's love for all things Asian, remember that painting, Girlfriends? Or was it Two Women Friends? I can never remember.
Yes. It had those same oriental designs, right? The phoenix, too. It's
Right.
funny how such a simple bird can mean so much.
Isn't it? That one was painted between 1916 and 1917, and it really shows how much Klimt kept going back to those Eastern art ideas.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad, though, Wally and Girlfriends, they were both ruined in a fire at Immendorf Castle in 1945.
Oh, no. What a loss. It makes you realize how fragile art can be. It's lucky Lady with the Fan survived being in his studio and all when he passed away.
It is. And speaking of the painting's journey, let's talk about the style. What do you notice about the brushstrokes? Are they different from his other paintings?
You know what? Now that you mention it, they are a little different. Looser almost. Like he was in a hurry. I think I read somewhere that some people who study art think it wasn't even finished when he died.
Yeah, that's a big debate.
Yeah.
The brushstrokes being like that made some people think he didn't get to finish it.
Yeah.
But then again,
Yeah.
some people say it's actually more powerful because it's not totally finished.
Like you can almost feel the artist right there with each stroke.
That's it. There's this art critic, Kelly Grovier, and he said it perfectly. Its unfinishedness is what completes it. It's like Klimt was embracing the raw energy, the immediacy of it all, maybe reflecting how unpredictable life can be.
I like that. It's like he's leaving room for us to find our own meaning in it. Speaking of journeys, we got to talk about the journey of Lady with a Fan itself. From Klimt's studio all the way to, well, we know it ends up somewhere pretty amazing.
You're thinking about that record-breaking auction, right?
You know it's.
But let's rewind a bit. First, after Klimt died, the painting, it went through different hands. A gallery in Vienna, then to Erwin Burler. He was a friend of Klimt's and a patron of his work. and then to his brother Heinrich. It's interesting how art can be like this thread through a family's history.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what they talked about when they looked at it. What did they see in those brushstrokes? But okay, back to the auction. Everyone was buzzing about that one. So before we get to the record breaker in 2023, what happened back in 94?
Oh, 94. That was a big year
Ah,
for Lady with a Fan. It ended up at Sotheby's, part of this collection from Wendell Cherry, an American entrepreneur who definitely knew good art when he saw it. And it sold for, get this, $11.6 million.
yes, $11 million. Way back then.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Even all those years after Klimt died, his art just kept getting bigger and bigger.
Oh.
Okay, hit me with the record-breaking sale.
Hold on to your hats, because this is a big one. It was June 2023, Sotheby's in London. Yeah. Everyone was on the edge of their seats.
The energy must have been electric, I bet.
Oh, it was. And then, bam, the gavel dropped. $85.3 million.
You're kidding. Over $108 million. That's insane. Talk about a testament to Klimt's genius. It's amazing how timeless his work is.
It's something else, right? Not only was it the highest price for any artwork ever sold in Europe, but it got the whole world talking about Klimt all over again.
It's a global phenomenon. But who was the lucky buyer? Did they ever say?
They kept it hush-hush. But we know it was bought on behalf of a private collector from Hong Kong, Caddy Wong, a big-time art dealer, you know.
Oh, Hong Kong. That's wild. Think about it. This painting, made by an Austrian artist inspired by Asian art, ends up with a collector in Asia. Like, it's come full circle. It really shows how art goes beyond borders and time, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And with all those Eastern vibes in Lady with a Fan, it feels even more meaningful, like it's found its way home in a sense.
So we've got this mystery woman hidden in the painting, all this symbolism packed into every inch of it, and this incredible journey through time. But, like, what does it all really mean? Why is Lady with a Fan such a big deal? Not just because it was Klimt's last one, but, like, in the whole art world, what do you think it is? What makes it so important?
That's the question, isn't it? The one that keeps us coming back for more.
Mm.
And I don't think there's just one answer, which I think is what makes it so interesting. You've got that mystery woman, those brushstrokes that look almost unfinished, that blend of East meets West. It all makes you think your own thoughts about it.
It's like he's saying, come on in and find your own meaning, even though he painted it like 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't forget what was going on back then. This being his last work with World War I happening, it adds another layer to it, don't you think?
Absolutely. When you think about what was going on in the world, it makes you wonder, what was he feeling when he painted this? Was he looking for beauty in the middle of all that chaos? Was he thinking about how fragile life is, how beauty fades? We can't know for sure, but it's those unanswered questions that make you want to know more.
It's like we're searching for those answers right there in the paint itself. You know, for me, it speaks to how powerful beauty is. This woman, her look is so captivating, but also kind of far away, surrounded by those bold colors and those exotic details. It's amazing how it still has that effect after all this time.
I completely agree. It's like a reminder that even when things feel dark and uncertain, beauty has this way of shining through. It lasts. It connects us to something bigger than ourselves.
That's a great way to put it. It's like A Lady with a Fan is this bridge between cultures, between different times, even between Klimt and the people looking at his art. It reminds us how powerful art can be. It brings us together.
And who knows what stories it will tell 100 years from now. This journey is far from over.
You know what? I bet some of our listeners are adding Lady with a Fan to their bucket lists as we speak. Seeing it in person is a whole other experience. Well, that wraps up our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.